So many buttons to click. So many buttons to click. I've got my headphones. I'm trying to wear my sombrero. Viva Mexico. It's the Mexico Open Week. We're building some lineups. We're entering some contests. We're trying to sort it all out. JM's in the chat. Hey, Daniel. What's up, TJ? What's up, Sergeant Stogie? Welcome to the show. Going to build some lineups, going to talk some golf, going to talk some picks. Mexico Open, back to kind of your standard PGA Tour stroke play event. The JM's, Ryan Zake. The stroke play tournaments are back. The wrinkles are completed in the schedule. We had the match play. We had the Zurich. We've got pretty much a 3/4 of the season in front of us. All 3 more majors, all of the playoffs. Reignmakers is kind of just taking off. We are seeing a new portfolio gated contest this week. I am just really excited for all of the things Reignmakers. We're going to talk about the portfolio gated contest. I think that's going to be one of the best EV contests, not only that we see this week, but we see for the substantial, pasts. When they're rolling out these generic contests, it has been harder and harder to win. There are more and more entries. The pack party contests got smaller this week. I know a lot of people have been jamming the extra lineups into the pack party contest for rare and elite tiers, but they are certainly smaller this week, less packs to go out. And I think this makes sense, right? I think about running the DraftKings product. You want to get more packs out there earlier. And so there is less prize packs now. So that makes that contest a bit harder to win. But I still think you probably have the best chance to earn something from your excess cards by entering the pack party. Last week, I entered all of my lineups into guaranteed contests. I did the same this week for now. I heavily debated picking up a Brandon Wu rare for the rare portfolio gated contest, which we'll get into. I also highlighted that that contest in the article that I posted over in the Discord this week. You can catch it on the OTMNFT.com homepage. So that's live. And I highlighted all of the details of the portfolio contest, which is you need to own one of the top 5 finishers and the rare plus tier. So you need either rare, elite, legendary, or rainmaker of Rom, Finau, Kurt Kitayama, Brandon Wu, Davis Riley. And if you have one of those golfers in your portfolio at lock, your entry will be accepted into those. There's actually 2 gated contests. One gated contest for anybody holding the rare or rare plus, and then one gated contest for anybody holding the elite plus tier. So the elite plus contest looks pretty juicy. Last I checked, it had 55 people in it. Let's check the lobby here. It has 58 people in it. Top 2 win this VIP trip. And the VIP trip is to the Charles Schwab Challenge, which is at the Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth, Texas. And I'm sure, one of the coolest things about a company the size of DraftKings is they have all the access. They're able to roll out the red carpet for these kind of events when they want to. So I think this is a really cool event if you're a golf fan. Really cool experience and a different way to put your Reignmakers cards to work. Now, I think there's going to be some really good lineups. If you have got a ROM and you're interested in this kind of stuff, you're going to want to put that ROM card in that lineup most likely. So I would be entering the strongest lineup possible that you can make into that contest if that's something that you're interested in. But I also like that not only do first and second place in both contests get access to the VIP experience, they also added a $5,000 to the prize pools. So third place and beyond, going to pick up some prize money, which I think is fun. It adds to the sweat. It gives you sort of prizes that you're getting from guaranteed contests and, the like of, that you're already playing in any other style contests. So I really think that it's interesting if you're willing to take a trip, if you're looking to get, a golf experience out of your Reignmakers cards. This is a fun contest to sweat. I know I'll be sweating it no matter what. I think it's just interesting to see who wins these things, what the experience is like. And it seems like DraftKings has led on to in their Discord announcement that this is not the first this is the first, but this may not be the only portfolio gated type contests that we see coming in the future. So excited for wrinkles that they give us on a week to week basis. All right, let's we recapped a little bit of the field, or previewed a little bit of the field, I'm sorry, on the Monday show that TJ and I did. Quite frankly, it's just not a great field. It is Jon Rahm by himself and everyone else. And then if you really want to be lenient, it's kind of Jon Rahm and Tony Finau, who Tony just hasn't played great as of recent. His recent form certainly isn't anywhere near the top of his game. It's Jon Rahm and Tony Finau and everyone else. And so when you look at the odds board, there is 20 to 50 what I would call middling options. In that article that I write up, I give a pick from 3 tiers of odds. The best odds, usually like plus 2,000 or so and above. The middling tier odds, 2,500 to 9K, and 10,000, and the long shots, 10,000 plus. I mean, there are a lot of golfers that I like and typically play in golf and fantasy golf on a pretty regular basis in that middling tier. So I think this kind of week is the kind of week where if you've got either a Rahm or a Finau, you can put together a pretty nice looking Thursday lineup and get yourself a really, really fun sweat come the cut sweat on Friday, and then hoping that you run up the leaderboard here on the weekend. So I am really partial and preferential to these kind of fields and these kind of tournaments when it comes to purely fantasy golf. When it comes to golf in terms of an entertainment product and the strength of the field and the TV broadcast, the majors are bar none. They're the best tournaments to watch. When it comes to these elevated events, they have been really dramatic, really great fields. I think it's been awesome for golf. But as a fantasy golf fan, I really like these kind of tournaments. You have a ton of options. Your sweat is a little bit better a lot of times. So I really am excited for the Mexico Open, more so than most people that kind of watch golf traditionally or just kind of casually are aware of golf. I'm big into these kind of events. So I'm interested in your guys' take as Reignmakers players. What kind of events have you liked the most? Have you always been a golf fan? Interested to hear from you. So hit me up over there in the Jolly Jokers Discord if you're participating over there, or in the DraftKings Reignmakers Discords. Tag me at Cupe over there, and interested to know what your experience has been and what kind of contests and tournaments you like watching. These sort of middle of the road events seem to be some of the most fun for me in terms of getting sweat equity and fun out of the fantasy golf lineups that I'm putting together. All right. All that said, let's share my screen and kind of get into it for this week. Let me bring my screen up here. Let's get over to our site. We're on the player's view. This view gives you odds if you're sorted on playing, gives you price at every single tier. And you can kind of see here, Rahm and Finau dominate the odds boards. I mean, plus 260 for Jon Rahm is an astronomical price, but he won this event last year. He was plus 350, I believe, in closing odds last year, ended up winning the event. And he's just in even better form this year, certainly better form this year than he was last year. So I think that this price makes a lot of sense. And if you have Rom, I would definitely not overthink it. I would simply captain him in the highest in the contest you feel that you want to have the best sweat in. Whether that's this portfolio gated contest, fantastic if that's for you, or in my opinion, the guaranteed contests just provide the most fun, the biggest upside in terms of prizing. So that's where I've been focused on. So I'd be jamming Rom into my captain spot and building from there. It come down to Finau. I made a mention of it. I mean, Tony just isn't playing that well. What that means to me is he's in this field. It's weaker, and he should play well. His C game is probably better than a lot of people in this field's A game. And so I think it's a get right spot for Finau. If you have Rom and Finau, I'd be pairing them together and I'd be eating all that chalk and I'd be going from there. But I think in this world and in this tournament, it's a Rom Finau world and then kind of everyone else. Look at the odds, like I mentioned. Wyndham Clark sits third here. We talked about him a lot last week. Played really well at the Zurich and the team event. Continues to play, really, really well in terms of fantasy golf scoring. And yeah, I think I think if I'm holding Wyndham Clark, I'm really happy. His world golf ranking here is something to note. 81 in the world, continues to get better. And that world golf ranking and the FedEx Cup ranking are going to be something that we're going to start to keep an eye on as we approach the PGA Championship in just 3 weeks, I believe. It's May 18th weekend. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, sorry, 4 weeks from now, where there will be a cutoff world golf ranking to get into the PGA Championship. And then FedEx Golf ranking, we'll keep an eye on that because that matters for the playoffs. And the playoffs, the FedEx Cup playoffs, are all deluxe DraftKings events with the biggest prize pools. So we're going to want to keep an eye on that. Is price still pretty high from an elite perspective? $325, certainly nothing to sniff at. But that rare price, $69. So definitely nothing to not too much to add to your portfolio. So I've been taking a look at guys and prices and who do I think makes sense, are going to play some of the biggest events and give me optionality within my portfolio going forward. One guy that I did pick up this week is Gary Woodland. I picked up a Gary Woodland rare. I actually ended up paying, I think, $32. I picked up the Genesis rare because I haven't sold anything yet. Not sure if that's smart or not, but I haven't sold anything yet. And I continue to get 5X fantasy score or a Reignmakers score for PGA Tour, and climbing up that leaderboard gives you additional prizing, gives you additional kickbacks, and it was $1 more, I think, to get his Genesis. So paid up that $1 to get Gary Woodland rare and put him in one of my top teams this week. So going with Gary Woodland, like his game as of recently. He's a U.S. Open winner, has pedigree, definitely in a field like this. To me, that matters. So yeah, I opted for a little bit of Woodland this week. And the guy right below Woodland is actually who I wrote up in my article. I said that I reached deep in the best odds bucket this week because, Finau and Rom, pretty easy to pick. Shout out TJ. He's been really hot on his picks lately. He likes Rom to get it done this week. And, rightfully so. I reached deep and I went to Patrick Rogers. 3 or 4 weeks ago at the Valero Texas Open, we saw Patrick Rogers with the 54-hole lead in position to get his first PGA Tour win, and he wasn't able to close the deal. And I think that there's a lot to be learned from something like that for someone like Patrick Rogers. Came back, played really well at the RBC Heritage in a stacked field. Now he finds himself in a pretty weak field near the top of the odds boards. And if you were ever going to get a win, this is where you kind of bear down, play your best golf in this field, notch your first PGA Tour victory, and sort of relaunch your PGA Tour career. He has one of the most storied amateur careers, up there with the likes of Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas. amateur pictures of him winning tournaments all over the place, but hasn't been able to get it done on the PGA Tour, and the floodgates could just open for someone like Patrick Rogers and his skill set. So I like him to play well this week. Look for him near the top of the odds board. That was someone that, in my collection, I believe I just have his core, but I was happy to put him in a captain spot from a core standpoint for this week. All right, let's jump into and like I said, on this player's view, you can get a sense of pricing across all the tiers. That's why I like it as a one-stop shop for your collection. What's the odds look like? What are the pricing? Are there any pricing, disparities that stand out here for me between core, rare, elite, where I want to spend, like I said, 27, 28 bucks on a Gary Woodland to fill out a pretty solid lineup that, in my opinion, has upside. So that's what I use this player's view for. Typically come over to collection, take a look at odds in your collection so you can see, okay, what do odds look like? What are prices? One thing I haven't done is sell. You can see 4-hour price. I think I paid 33 bucks here. 4-hour price on Gary Woodland is 44 bucks. Wonder if I'm willing to put it out there in the marketplace. But when you're using odds to make purchases, we continue to see that as lock approaches, you're going to get more and more sellers in the market for guys that are at the top tier. I made a purchase last night. There's other guys, 28% uptick in the 4-hour market here, all the way up to 44 bucks. So could flip him. Would it sell? Not 100% sure if there's liquidity there, but if someone wanted to buy, would make a nice $15 on that purchase. I'm just leaving him in my lineups because I bought him to play him and I bought him for future tournaments. But I think this is another way to think about playing Reignmakers and adding a couple of guys, especially in a comfortable price tier for you, especially in something like core, where you're going to see more liquidity at the core level than any of the other levels, just given the amount that core cards sell for. So I think it's another interesting angle to the entire Reignmakers experience. But then I always jump from collection over into lineup builder. And in the lineup builder, this just gives you the most free and easy ability to put lineups together and see them next to each other all at the same time. And so when you do this, you're able to save lineups, make changes. You can see I didn't actually add Gary in here. I set my lineups first. I then came back and said, wait, I want a bit stronger of a lineup. I had Dylan Wu, who, as you guys know, if you've been watching the show, I like Dylan Wu's game. Unfortunately, missed the cut last week, had written him up, missed the cut by 2. That was a heartbreaker for some of my teams. But overall, really like his game. But I really like this lineup with Griot, Bramlett, Kevin Roy, someone who has deep odds, but has really good long iron play. And in a course like Vidanta Vallarta, it is a long course. You'll have a lot of long irons. So I like Kevin enough to put him in my lineup over somebody like Martin Trainer. I had 6 elite cards to decide from this week. So it was either Trainer or Kevin Roy. I'm opting for Kevin Roy up here. But then I said, all right, I like someone like Gary Woodland to round out this lineup for only 33 bucks, 32 bucks. So I added Gary Woodland in there and I submitted that team, I believe. Griot, Bramlett, Roy, Noren, Woodland as my premier elite team that I'll be mostly sweating. And I jammed it into the elite guaranteed contest this week. You'll see all of my lineups this week went into the elite guaranteed. Still trying to figure out what the right mix of contest selection, contest entry, where there might be some edge, but frankly, I think it's pretty small. And I'm just kind of going for the upside shots of not only the upside price of the elite contest, but also the in the money percentage, what it returns. And I'm just kind of putting my teams in the guaranteed contests for now, and we'll continue to adjust. We've also seen DraftKings continue to adjust in terms of payout spots, how deep they go, what the amount is. that they go to in terms of number of places paid out. So I continue to monitor that sort of stuff, and shout out some guys over in the Discord. Shout out Berrig, shout out a few other guys who continue to take a look at this stuff and optimize around contest selection. I think it's an important part of Reignmakers is knowing what you're playing for, knowing why you're playing, and then getting yourself into the best contest that you can get into. But like I said, this week, in my opinion, it's guaranteed contests. It's maybe a little bit of pack party at the core level. I'm not sure I love the rare pack party and the elite pack party this week, just because there's less packs, so the in the money percentage is much lower. So I'm just opting for the cash for the guaranteed contest. But then I think if you hold one of those cards that get you into that portfolio gated contest, I think that's a fun one. Shout out TJ here. He says, do I put my best rare lineup on that contest or standard guarantee? I mean, for the content, TJ, for the content, for OTM, for being there on the grounds at Colonial, repping some DraftKings Reignmakers lineups, I think you have to put it in the rare portfolio gated contests. We'll see where TJ ends up putting it, but interesting decision. I know Stogie has that decision himself as well, holds that very coveted elite John Rahm card. So he's saying go for the trip. Will be fun to see where Stogie ends up. And I've been sweating a lot of you guys in our Discord when my lineups inevitably haven't gone very well or don't go very well. I turn to the Discord. I make sure that we're taking a look at who's at the top of the leaderboard, who's had some sweats. And man, shout out you Jolly Jokers out there having a ton of great sweats across these DraftKings Reignmakers contests. So excited to see where we line up this week and who's sweating some big victories. All right. So Daniel says he's on the Will Gordon bus this week. Yeah, Will Gordon. I believe, if my memory recalls, Will Gordon strikes it really well, hits it really far, and this is definitely a bomber's paradise. So I'm just going to jump over here to the players tab, take a look at Will Gordon, and take a look at some pricing there. Will Gordon plus 5,000 odds. 350 in the core, $14 for his rare, $79 for his elites. And yeah, I believe hits it far away, has a big driver. And those are the kind of guys you're looking at this week. If you had to pick sort of the perfect golfer for this week, it's definitely not a great putter. I call it in my article. We're on Paspalum grass this week, and seemingly the stats all point to the fact that this grass tends to make the bad putters a little bit better. Putting is always a bit interesting and difficult to predict, but I think in general, this type of grass, to me, there's enough data there that suggests that it makes bad putters better. So somebody I really like this week and who's in my top lineup as my captain is Emiliano Grillo. The hottest and the coldest golfer at times, can make birdies with the best of them, but absolutely every 3-footer is sort of a knee knocker. Can't really putt at all, but seemingly on Paspalum has putted really well, has putted much, much, much better than his average. So excited for Grillo this week. I have a little bit of a soft spot for Grillo as well, because he was able to win me some cash last year in some standard DFS contests. So I like Grillo. It's always the guys you remember finding their way into your spots. But yeah, Grillo's a guy that I like this week. Daniel also says, for guys with no odds, are they just off the board? For example, Carl Yuan. Yeah, this could have to be a couple things. I'll check on the back end with Neil here. This may be a naming mismatch, but typically we should have odds for just about everyone that is playing, unless for some reason there isn't odds for a specific guy, which would be a little bit strange. So to me, this is probably the fact that there is kind of a name mismatch somewhere in either the stat provider or the odds provider, where we're getting our information, or our database. So I'll double check on Carl Yuan. He's actually in one of my squads. I actually moved him from, and you can see he's in this sort of second lineup here. I ended up moving him from this second lineup whenever I bought the Gary Woodland. I think that's an interesting element of Reignmakers as well, and why I really like the lineup builder tool on our site, is it's just so easy to make changes. And then come entry time into DraftKings, you kind of just go here, you keep this up on one tab. Maybe you have two different devices. I'm usually entering from phone, so I'm on iPad or computer looking at, okay, these are the lineups I like, and then I enter them into DraftKings. So that's typically how I'm doing it, but it's just much easier to move guys in and out of your lineup. I believe I did that. I believe I actually moved Carl out when I bought Gary. I then moved Dylan Wu into a second lineup here that I liked. So just so much easier to move guys in and out using this tool. So shout out Neil being able to design this to a spot where we see everything that we like in one spot. All right. Any other questions that are out there? We promised that we'd get into some football. I've got a lovely guest waiting in the wings here. We're going to talk a little bit about the draft. We're going to talk a little bit about DraftKings football, Reignmakers football. Talk a little bit about the rookie debut drop there. Want to get any final golf questions, thoughts, comments from you all out there? Yeah, I think this week comes down to a middling week, ton of options, going to be back to the best sweat in fantasy sports, the Friday cut sweat, where you're just looking for all 5 of your golfers to get to the weekend. And then you get the weekend sweat where you're trying to run up the leaderboard and ultimately land somewhere near the top of the payout structure. But yeah, I think it's a great week to play fantasy golf. It's the best way to be engaged in these middling tournaments. Like I said in the beginning, it's my favorite style tournament, my favorite tournament to sweat when you have the full field, a lot of golfers that could play well. And yeah, my tip this week is bombers seem to have a little bit of a leg up. Luke List, Joseph Bramlett, Will Gordon, guys that hit it far, definitely playing a bit better or have a bit better of a chance than guys that maybe aren't as long off the tee. Course just plays really long, and should be a fun event. Will be fun for any of you guys in the betting market out there thinking about John Rahm versus not John Rahm. That's kind of the biggest question. So without further ado, that will wrap it for anything related to golf for this week. And we're going to get into maybe I keep the sombrero here, but we've got the brain who is going to join the show, Mr. Jolly Justin Herzig, joining me here. Where we at? Joining me here to talk a little bit of Reignmakers football, and also just going to give us some insight on the draft. Justin, first, how's it going? Excited for you to explain it to me like I'm 5. All I hear about these days is Will Levis and some crazy information about Will Levis and what's going to happen with him. So excited to be on with you, chatting draft, chatting Reignmakers football, and anything else football that you want to cover.
Sí, hola, mi amigo, ¿cómo estás?
Yeah, I really wish that I could do like even more than a couple of sentences in Spanish these days. Had high school Spanish all the way up to AP, and then if you don't ever get over there, it's impossible. But yeah, the Spanish language I love it. But yeah, can't do much more than the basics: left, right. How do you get something? What's going on? The basics.
No es problema. Yo soy en Miami.
Wow, I guess the
magnífico.
The Floridians coming out of you down there.
Hey, when you come down to Miami, you got to get a little Spanish in there. Mexico Open going on down south this weekend, so it all comes together. I think we even got the F1 race going to be down here in Miami next weekend too, so lots of fun sports going. Brandon Wu, I think that's my pick. If I need a long shot for the Mexico Open this weekend, I think he finished second last year. He's done decently well this year. I think he's got like 3 top 10s as his top 9 and his last 9, also 3 missed cuts. So has that kind of roller coaster wonkiness. But Brandon Wu is my long shot.
I like it. Yeah, I like Brandon Wu. I've been on the record the last couple of weeks saying that Dylan Wu doesn't get any credit. Brandon Wu is the Wu man that gets all the credit. He definitely has more upside. And I think in an event where you've played well last year, his recent form is pretty good. He gets you into the portfolio gated contest that we talk about. Yeah, I like the call on Brandon Wu. I believe somewhere in that like plus 5,000 range. So
Yeah, 55, 60 to 1, depending on where you're looking.
Exactly. So yeah, I like someone in that range for sure to make a run, as long as Sir John Rahm doesn't just absolutely obliterate the field and win by 6 shots.
But yeah, it should be fun. Should be fun. But yeah, in other news, football, it is. I mean, it's pretty much the point that like football is now a year round. The NFL has done very well of kind of, 10 years ago, football was maybe August to February, and maybe it had a week or two in between for like a trade deadline or the draft. But like they followed the NBA's model. They are now a year-round league. It's been very exciting. With the draft starting tomorrow, great to see Reignmakers dropping those rookie debut packs. Gets a little fun with, kind of just makes the draft more interesting for people who ripped open those packs. Quick refresher for anyone who's not aware, who they were still maybe has those packs but haven't opened. But I think it's like there's 5 or 6 quarterbacks, maybe 5 running backs, and I think 9 wide receivers. That all is you're going to get the X position drafted, and we can kind of talk through who we think are going to fall into those, and then we got a couple of packs we can rip too. So
we got packs. All right, let's rip some packs for sure. I definitely got to get my sombrero straight here.
It's
the headphones.
People wear. Yeah, exactly.
Headphones are a little rough here, but I'm trying to get this thing straight. I mean, got the crazy hair going, got the hat falling off. I mean, I'm all over the place here. All right, yeah, okay. So I guess first, can you just explain the drop to me? I didn't really understand the drop at all for Reignmakers Football, but because you got positions that correlate to future players. Is that right?
Yeah. So each card will say quarterback, and then it'll have a number 1 to either 5 or 6. I forgot if they did 5 or 6. And that'll eventually become the rookie card for that player when they're drafted. So if it's QB3, it's whoever the 3rd quarterback that is drafted. If it's wide receiver 6, it's the 6th wide receiver drafted. Now, some might be the first round, doesn't matter. It's throughout the entire draft. And so then there were 3 different levels. You could either get the, just most basic core, and I think that was like $10, and you get 1 card. You could do the booster. That was 3 cards with a 50% chance of getting 1 rare for $30. Or there was the premium one that was guaranteed, at least like 1, I think, Elite Plus, maybe 2 rares, some cores as well. Don't get that. I didn't get that. I've got 2 of the maybe rare ones, and then 1 core as well. So we can rip those.
Love it. And this was all positions. This was just
those 3 positions.
Okay. Yeah. Just 3 positions. Okay.
So I think it's because from a fantasy standpoint, like those are the main point scores. Like tight end, I think could have been incorporated, but also with the format of the game, like outside of elite tight ends, and rookie tight ends really don't do much. One thing to mention is these rookie cards can also be used next year. So if you get QB5, maybe probably QB5, and let's say that's Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker actually might be a decent talent. He's a little older, out of Tennessee, but he's coming off an ACL, so he's probably not going to be too relevant this year. But you'd have him for next year too, and that's where he'd probably have more of his relevance. Running backs, it's the top 5. I think all 5 of those running backs will pretty much have a role starting day 1. At least 3 or 4 of them will. And then wide receivers, it goes to all the way to 9. And I'm expecting to have 4 wide receivers in the first round of the draft. After that, it's going to be hit or miss depending on, how they're looking in preseason, what team they're on, what their potential role is, and whether or not they get playing time in year 1.
All right, so it sounds like we want QB 1 through 4, running back 1 through 5, wide receiver 1 through 5. If we get those, we're probably.
If I'm allowed to be a little pickier, I would say so. QB 1 to 4, I think all 4 are great. I think the 4th QB drafted might actually be the best fantasy quarterback when he gets in the field, Anthony Richardson. We'll see. Running backs, running back one is a tier of its own. Bijan Robinson, like this is, prospect profile goes all the way up with when Zeke and Barkley were coming into the league, like absolute stud. Legit, like might be a better prospect than Jonathan Taylor. And so we're expecting when he goes probably in the first, anywhere between 8 to 15 picks, he's going to be an instant stud. After that, you've got two guys that I would say, Jahmyr Gibbs and Zach Charbonnet, that are both going to be pretty strong, players. Gibbs is a great pass catcher. Some people like to compare him to Kamara, Dalvin Cook, and such. He's a little smaller, but I think he's fantastic in space. He will have a direct role. Whether or not he's a three down back, we'll see. Zach Charbonnet is not as flashy as the top two, but has the ability to be a true 3-down workhorse. Now, workhorses are few and far between in the league nowadays. So if you actually have that possibility, he lands in the right spot, that could be really valuable. After those three, we really don't know who's going to be drafted. Devin Achane is maybe the next one. He's the fastest running back in the draft. And so just from a speed, but he's also weighs 177, I think, or something, maybe 180 something. So wow. Very low. So not sure if he can actually hold up as a workhorse. Maybe you can think of him like a Raheem Mostert. Upside is if you could actually get him like a Jamal Charles or something. But there's a whole bunch of backs, Tyjae Spears, Tank Bigsby. I'm trying to think. There's a wide range that could be after that. So I want maybe top 3 running backs, I would say. And then wide receivers, we're looking at 4 wide receivers that'll probably go in the first round, my guess. So you've got JSN out of Ohio State. You've got Quentin Johnson, who's a little bit of bigger guy, but great yards after catch. Jordan Addison, small guy, but great route runner, great hands, great at getting open. Maybe like a Devonta Smith style. And then Zay Flowers as well, similar small guy out of FSU, but can definitely be a great slot receiver. Can he maybe be working the outside in 2 wides? We're not sure, but those are the 4 that I'm probably most excited for. After that, you've got some guys that could make it, but this is overall, I'd say, a weaker wide receiver class than we're used to.
All right, a couple questions, noob questions here. So I like to call out Tank Bigsby. I mean, I liked him at Auburn, right? I thought he was pretty good there, but someone that is a question on size for sure. But I want to cover a couple questions I have at wide receiver. So JSN and Addison, right? Because Addison was the pick kid, then he went to USC and sort of runs that same route tree, I believe, as a JSN, sort of more smaller guy, runs great routes in the slot. What's your take on slot wide receivers versus kind of a big number 1 true alpha wide receiver coming out of college? Is it better to be in that slot role? Is it dependent on what team you go to? What's your take there?
Yeah, so I mean, in this class, there's really only one true X wide receiver, which we're thinking X. You're thinking hey, big physical, gonna win those 50-50 balls, and that's Cedric Tillman, and he's probably the 8th to 10th wide receiver in this class. Now, maybe someone reaches a little because coach is hey, I want that prototypical big alpha wide receiver in my offense. Maybe he ends up not panning out, and it is what it is. We've seen that with some of the larger guys recently, but that's that more prototypical. Now, most of the guys this year, we have a lot of smaller guys, and now maybe they come into the league and we think JSN, Jackson Smith and Juba, we think hey, he may only be able to play slot. That's where he definitely is the best. But, coach might feel differently. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is a great example where, hey, you could just think of him as an underneath slot wide receiver. But then what we were able to see once he went into the pros was no, he could actually play downfield. His, his yards per reception were fantastic. He becomes just a ball hawk. And, now he's a major part of that offense. Cooper Kupp, I think Cooper Kupp was still a little thicker than a lot of these wide receivers. But, still, you think of him as that, hey, what is that kind of prototypical wide receiver build for, for him, and able to kind of through his career play out of that. So the Jordan Addison, the Zay Flowers, even the JSNs, these aren't big guys, but I think teams that are going to draft them early are going to want to see them play more than just the slot role. And most important there is from a fantasy perspective is if you're only playing the slot, then you're usually only playing in 3 wide sets. So you're off the field for anywhere between 20 to 40% of snaps. You want to have someone who I mean, like, so Justin Jefferson, obviously, like, number one alpha fantasy wide receiver in the league, but like he'll play outside, but he'll also come play in the slot. And on a slot basis, those are his most valuable plays and targets from a fantasy points perspective. But he's not leaving the field when you're in two wide sets, and he can play outside as well.
Yeah, I mean, as a Penn State guy who was tortured by Garrett Wilson, man, when JSN like went out and he got hurt, I was like, boy, best thing could ever happen to us. I mean, sad for him because he was such a talent on the field. But I always thought, even in the days when they played together, I was like, man, Smith and Jigba is like better than Garrett Wilson, and Garrett Wilson has become a pretty big stud. Obviously, topic of the town now with them getting Rodgers. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, Smith and Jigba is going to be interesting to see if he can come back, and if he came back, how healthy is he, and then how does he like break into the NFL. So I'm excited to watch them and maybe not torture my team these days. So.
And that's what we saw was like on the field with Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. JSN was arguably the best wide receiver. And that says a lot because Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson just had two of the best rookie wide receiver seasons we've seen in a while and are both going to be studs in this league. So why shouldn't JSN also be?
Yeah. No, makes a ton of sense. All right, let's jump. My last couple of questions, quarterback. So one, can you just explain what the heck is going on with Will Levis? Is it really like the Reddit bros and someone who was like talking to Will Levis and he went from 50-1 or something like that to 4-1 to be like the first pick overall? What is like the overall story of what's happening with Will Levis?
Yeah, so let's rewind a bit on Will Levis. So he came into college as a top prospect. So always had that kind of prototype. Hey, we've got our eyes on him. In that first year for Kentucky, like that's where people were coaching him. People were very excited. Like he could have gone in the pros last year, and he probably would have been the second, maybe first quarterback drafted. But he thought that I could come back, stay another year and work my way up to be like a top 5 overall pick or something. So he has that background. Now we're going to January. If you looked at the Vegas odds for like draft picks, he was like plus 750 to go number 1 overall. So like early in the kind of draft cycle, he's always been a name that like has been up there with this is a possibility to go 1 overall, at least the top. Now through the draft, through the evaluations, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young really kind of separated themselves. Then combine happens. Anthony Richardson tests better than any quarterback we've ever seen before. Literally, he's Derrick Henry with the ability to throw the ball. And so now all the attention goes to him. He starts moving up a little. It's not that Will Levis disappeared through all this. It's just he didn't have the most amazing combine. And the tape, his game tape is nowhere near as good as what we have out of CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. So from a fantasy analyst, from a media, like, it just makes sense that he slowly kind of just lost attention and track. He just lost like attention in the mindset. Now, coaches, though, still loved him. And so now we start getting these kind of, not all coaches, some coaches still really like him. You start getting some of these peeps from the media about like, hey, Carolina actually really liked him. Hey, Indianapolis would actually really want him at number 4. And so these are kind of murmurs that happen. Then 2 nights ago, random Reddit person posts, I know Will Levis is going to Carolina, blah, blah, blah. That's when bets were made with the kind of sports books. And the way these sports books are running these kind of these bets for the draft, it does not take a lot of money to move the line. So it's not that the sports books have inside information, and their inside information is what is dictating his odds going from 50-1 to 12-1 or 7.5-1 or whatever. It's, oh no, people are actually betting it because similar to what people were joking about GameStop with Reddit, where people just going and, hey, buying Reddit to, fight the hedge funds and stuff. It didn't take that much actual bets to then move it and take it off the market as a result of that. They put it back on. I think it's still highly, highly likely that Bryce Young is going to go number 1 overall to Carolina, but I would not be shocked if Will Levis goes number 2 to Houston, or if not there, number 4 to Indianapolis.
Yeah, Will Levis is such a crazy, crazy story because, I saw Will Levis at Penn State, and something is either wrong with Penn State's ability to assess, or Will Levis stinks. I'm going to be on like the Will Levis stinks train because I've been on the Will Levis stinks train for a while. Couldn't beat out Sean Clifford at Penn State. And yeah, as good as Clifford was, he was just an average college quarterback, maybe even below average, some people might say. And he goes to Kentucky, and yeah, he plays better. But then all of a sudden, people talking about him as like a number 1 draft pick in the NFL, and I was just like, I don't understand. I have no idea how to assess any of this, but it's going to be very interesting to watch, just because of, like you said, I have like some history of Will Levis, and he's certainly a gamer. You see him out there in his college tape, ton of competing in him, and I know everyone kind of loves that, especially from an NFL standpoint. And quarterback is so much more than just like what you need to do and have from an ability standpoint on the field. You're sort of a leader of men, and there's so many other characteristics and qualities that I'm sure go into this. But it's always fun to talk about the draft. And like you said at the top, the NFL has done a phenomenal job at just capturing attention, being relevant for pretty much 12 months out of the year. It's actually kind of insane. But yeah, all right, excited for all of those things. And yeah, let's if you don't have anything else, let's definitely rip some packs.
Let's do it. I got 10 minutes before the end of the hour, so let's see what we can do. I think we just go. Should we do a little slow start with the core, or jump right in?
Oh, I think we got to do a little slow start. Let's start with the core for sure.
All right, here we go.
This is one card, right?
One card, one core.
All right. So, I mean, RB1 or QB, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can take a wide receiver.
I guess wide receiver 1 or 2 is probably
top 4 at any position, I'd say.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Here we go.
Let's go.
QB2.
Let's go.
All right.
Did Justin just pick Will Levis? He just said, wouldn't be shocked Houston takes him at 2. Wow.
That could. Well, let's
that's a good
QB2.
start.
I don't know. It'll be interesting. He can definitely run, so like there is some fantasy value there, but definitely a lot of boss potential. Okay. Here we go. So now we are hoping for some good players, and then also want to get that rare.
Okay. Yeah, the boosters are super fun. I open the boosters in PGA as well, and you're just praying to see a green on the screen when you first open it. It's like, give me one green and you're happy, and then you open it, and who knows, maybe you're not happy after that. Okay.
Nice. So all cores. That's okay. Let's see what we got though. We got QB2 again.
Oh baby.
Running back 4. Okay. Maybe that's an A-chain. We'll see. Then wide receiver 4. Ooh. Okay. Hey, we said top 4 of all, right?
That's pretty good. Yeah, that seems pretty good. Obviously not a rare, but that seems pretty solid.
For taking here we go. For not getting. Okay. So we want to see a green. Show us a green. Let's see that rare. 50% chance. Give us one rare.
Shout out DraftKings. I like this pack opening process. Different than PGA.
Let's go.
All right. Okay. Rare first or rare last? No, that's the question.
We got to save it, right?
Yeah, I think you got to save it. It's usually what I do.
QB5. All right.
Okay. There's the Hendon Hooker. Is that what you said? Yeah. I mean, I loved Hendon Hooker before he got hurt, man. He was great. Tennessee was on an absolute tear. Like, I mean, they were basically geared up to go beat Alabama, geared up to go to the national championship, end up losing. Like, yeah, it was a tough out for Tennessee this year, but a fun team to watch in college football.
Yeah, that game, with Jalen Hyatt, like 300 yards or something. All right, wide receiver 5. That's going to be a crapshoot. We'll see. So not the greatest 2 here, but we got ourselves a rare. So let's just hope this is good. Let's go. One call. One RB1. One RB1. QB2. We are just hammering the QB2s.
I mean, it's going to be hilarious if Will Levis is picked second, and we have all the Will Levis talk, and you have 3 Will Levises in your collection to start.
That's true. Hey, I got a golf one. Should we end with?
Yeah, we got. I was gonna say you got to open this booster here for sure.
I didn't even know I had this. So there we go.
Yeah, shout out DraftKings. You got to check the achievements. They just dropped these. So yeah, open this thing up and see what we got.
Okay, so it's gonna be 2 cores and a rare.
Could be a rare. Same thing as
one rare card
for sure.
2 packs.
Yeah, same thing as the boosters you just ripped, basically.
All right. Just cores.
Wanted to see a rare there for sure.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, Siwoo Kim. I like it.
Russell Knox.
Not the best. Middling.
And Lowry.
Ooh, okay, that's pretty solid for a 3 course for sure. Lowry and Siwoo going to play a lot of golf over the course of the rest of the season. Russell Knox, it's kind of like an interesting one there. Has some upside, but just doesn't play enough. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I feel that. Awesome. Well, draft tomorrow night. We're going to be paying attention. We're all about QB2. It's only appropriate now that after getting 2 core QB2s, 1 rare QB2, might be Will Levis. We'll see.
All right, I'm gonna have to put a little cash on it. Throw my $5 on Will Levis in position number 2, just for the bit equity of the show of trying to clip that, and Justin having 3 Will Levises in his collection. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for talking some DraftKings football, Reignmakers football. Excited for all the stuff that they've got in the works there. Obviously, you guys out there that use our site for PGA. Look forward to some stuff coming for football, looking to get in the mix on more and more of the Reignmakers stuff as we march forward. So will be a fun time, expecting some more of the same when it comes to fantasy innovation and how DraftKings rolls out the Reignmaker product. So excited to see what happens there. All right. Any final words for the people, Justin, before we shut it down?
That is all. Enjoy the draft tomorrow. And once we start getting a little more football, I will be back on a bit more often, planning to get deep into the football Reignmaker Street. So it should be fun.
Love it. You heard it here first. The Herzig bot in his brain talking football and Reignmakers. Can't wait to see it. All you out there, best of luck with your lineups. Get them submitted. Enjoy the cut sweat, and hope to see you on the top of the leaderboards as we round out the weekend. Talk to you all next week on Monday. See you later.